Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Thomas Taylor III, coming to you live once again from Lawrenceville, Georgia. Hope everybody's well out there. I hope everybody's past your April Fool's joke because it's April 3rd already. As you can see, the month is flying fast. Well, I'm not going to be before you long. Actually, we just came off the road about 3, 4 hours ago. We was out there at UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham, watching my daughter run track once again. So you know how we do. We love to support our children. This morning, I'm going to talk about the Oscar aftermath. Yeah, we know it's a frenzy out there based upon the situation, but I'm attacking from a different angle. This morning, I'm going to talk about the Oscar aftermath in terms of leadership from a community, a husband, and a father's perspective. Okay. So now we know there's a lot of debate out there whether or not the slap was real, if it was staged, if it wasn't staged. There's a lot of debate on whether or not Will Smith was, justified in his actions versus what Chris Rock said. So we know all that. Now we could debate that all day long. But one thing is true is once a decision was made, once Will Smith actually stood up, right, after we seen Jada laughing, and then all of a sudden it wasn't funny no more, it was a little serious. Once he stood up and once he walked toward Chris Rock, that's what I want to focus on this morning. Not whether or not the slap was real or if it wasn't real, because when he stood up and he took those steps toward Chris Rock, a decision was already made. That's what I want to focus on this morning. I'm not going to be long in front of you, right? So when you talk about leadership, right, it's very, very important. Why? Because there's individuals that's watching you, they're watching me, based upon how we conduct ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. So Will Smith, as a prominent leader, as a figurehead in the community, once he made that decision, was it the best decision? I'm not talking about the actual slap or the outcome, because once he made a decision to disrupt a live broadcast that's seen by millions, do you think that was the right decision based upon how he handled it? Because he's already a figure that, we've been watching for years, right? So now, as a community that he's supposed to represent, was that the best decision of leadership when he stood up to disrupt something that millions of people were watching? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Why do you feel he did that? See, what was going on in the background? And I haven't read his book, but I heard that inside of his book, he talks about different things where he felt that he didn't actually protect the women in his life, right? So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because there's decisions that we have to make in our lives, and people are watching. But we make those decisions based upon a past hurt and a past pain, they can become knee-jerk reactions, right? That we later on subsequently may put ourselves in a position, now we have to apologize. Now I get it. Nobody's perfect. I understand that. Nobody's perfect. I'm talking about when you understand that you're a leader in your community, and as a husband, right? And as a father, there's certain things, there's certain responsibilities as a man that we have to think about and think all the way through. So let's talk about the decision he made from a father's standpoint, okay? Now, I get it in terms of quote unquote protecting his bride, his queen, okay? Because he felt probably at that time that she was being disrespected. So hey, that's a personal decision. You know what I mean? Like nobody can make that decision for him, and nobody can take away the decision that he made. But I'm talking about when you represent something that's larger than yourself, that's larger than your emotions. Because now, as a father, would he tell his children to handle a situation that they felt uncomfortable with, to handle that situation with violence? Because we all know once violence comes into the equation, emotions typically drive that. So as a father, as a leader, in terms of as a father with his children, see, and now his children's children, because now that's etched in stone. People are going to be able to go back. You can watch that for the next 100 years, right? So we represent, the reason why I'm coming to you this way is we represent something that's larger than ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. And when you make a decision, what I'm asking is that you think the whole decision through. Now, granted, we are all imperfect, so we're not always going to make the right decision. But due to the fact that that's the hottest thing that's going on right now, because you can see every single day, it's like we turning the page. Every single day, we turning the page to something else is hot, and then boom. Chris Rock had a show out there in Boston. He said, "Hey, if that's what you came for in terms of for me to talk about, I got a whole show." And then I seen him interview people after the show, and it was like they was disappointed that he didn't really go into it. But he said, "Hey, I'm still processing what happened." Right? I'm sure there's going to be some jokes later on down the line. And the last part I'm going to talk about is as a husband. Right? So that's kind of twofold, right? Because you still have to stand as a man even though you have a hat on as a husband, right? So now, when we get into situations where we have to demonstrate leadership, because that's what I'm talking about, you have to demonstrate leadership. How can we demonstrate leadership in a way that's impactful but leaves a positive outcome, right? Because sometimes when we drive home a point with a negative affirmation or something that's negative, it leaves a different impression. Now talk about leadership, right? I'm talking about leadership because that's what he represents. So from a husband standpoint, now he has to make a choice. Chris Rock says a joke, he chuckles, he laughs, he glances or looks over at his wife, she kind of tenses up a little bit. Now he has to make a decision. Okay. And that's the place that I'm talking about this morning. So now, as a husband, how do you want to demonstrate the leadership? Because again, as soon as he stood up and walked toward that man, he made a decision. Now, as a husband, what does that say? Now, one side could say, hey, as you can see on those internet streets, he took up for his wife. Okay, on one side, right? He defended his queen. Okay, all right. If that's some people want to take it that way. Okay, so the other side is, but did he have to defend her in that manner? Or could he have defended her after the show and still demonstrated, not that he was a punk or nothing like that, but still demonstrated with her there, still demonstrated that he was her protector, right? But just how he handled it based upon him being a man and a leader, because that's the point that I'm driving home this morning, everyone. As a leader, I'm going to show you a different way than you may either want me to or typically have situations like this handled. right? So we all have come across situations where we have to make a decision. And sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we won't always make the right decision. But when everything is at stake, when all the chips are on the line, as leaders and as servant leaders, we have to take a moment to subdue our passion, to think about that decision all the way through in business, in our personal lives. Why? Because it all matters, right? And as you go out there and do the things that your creator has placed upon you to do and be, remember, and always remember, you are a leader. So how you move, how you respond, the things that you say, the things that we do are very, very important to the outcome of the situation, right? So on this Sunday morning, I'm talking about just leadership. When Will Smith made that decision to stand up, in his mind, he was going to handle that situation, right? So I'm just saying this morning, say, hey, sometimes we have to subdue our passion, right? Now, again, as a husband, he has his bride to protect. That's very, very important, right? But he also represents a larger community at the same time. Now, again, I'm not saying it was an easy decision because it's still Will Smith, it's Hollywood, it's a different world, everyone, and we all know that. We all know that, right? But again, when that decision was made, we all have to think about the ramifications. Now, the latest thing, he said, "Hey, I'm resigning from the academy. I apologize. I shouldn't have did that. All of those particular things, right? But now he still has to face his wife, his family, and they may be okay with that. Everyone, right? We don't know. We have no idea, right? But for us, right, we live in a different world, right? I'm just challenging everybody this morning. When you face obstacles, when your emotions are high, just take a moment to subdue your passion and think about the situation all the way through, right? Try not to make a knee-jerk reaction that you later on will have to apologize about, right? It doesn't say nothing about your womanhood or manhood. It just says that you decided to handle the situation in a different manner. Because just think about it in terms of the fatherhood piece. He may have to explain that to his grandchildren, right? Oh, well, because why? And just think about this, right? Think about from a father's perspective again. What do our children do, ladies and gentlemen? Do they do what we do? Do they do what we say? Or do they do what we do? They watch us. They emulate us, right? So they say in their mind, hey, if we did it, it must be okay, right? They bypass the explanation, right? But they watch what we do, right? So if we understand that, if we're leading by our actions, we have to be mindful of not being in a position where our emotions are leading our actions versus our mindset, subduing our passion and understanding. I may need to take a breather. I may need to take a moment here and think this situation all the way through. I got my wife looking at me like, okay, what you gonna do, right? But at the same time, I'm a leader to many. So in this Sunday Oscar aftermath, understand leadership is very, very, very important. And if you're out there doing business, you're out there in the community, you're making a difference in people's lives, you are a leader. This is Thomas Taylor III. You can follow me on Instagram at Thomas Taylor III. If you want to email me, you can email me at tyd@tailoryourdreams.com. You can follow me on YouTube, Thomas Taylor III. That's Tailor Your Dreams. On Sunday evenings, I have a show with Miss Nadira Lewis called Dinner with the Coaches. Tune in. And my website is just about finished, ladies and gentlemen. But I didn't want to be on here too long. But you know, I come on Sundays just to try to drop a couple of nuggets. But on this Oscar Math Sunday, understand for me, it was about leadership. And if you're out there, if you're listening, you are a leader. So be mindful of the decisions that you make. Until we speak again, it's been a plum pleasing pleasure as well as a privilege. Go out there and make it a great day.